Good day, everyone. My name is David Ellis on the Integrative Health Network, and I'm here with a very unique lady who has a very unique approach to healing. This is Sheila Unique, and the first question I'm going to ask you before I have you introduce yourself is that your real last name? Is your real last name Unique?
Yes, I married a man with the last name of Unique, and he did tell me life would be interesting,
And
and
unique.
it's unique.
Okay, Sheila, introduce yourself for the audience.
Well, let's start with that word unique. I am an identical twin here in Regina, and I would have to say along my journey, I was in a place where being a twin, everything had to be the same. So we had the same haircut and we had the same number of gifts and we had the same. And I did come to my current husband, Jim Unique, and I joke with people and tell them I've now gone from being identical to being unique.
Okay. So if I'm in Walmart and I go up to somebody and say, Sheila, how you been? That person could be your sister?
Actually, yes, I've had that. We definitely sound the same on the phone, but there's been many times I'll be walking in the mall and somebody will look, and I'll know that they think I'm my sister. So yeah, don't be surprised.
Interesting. Okay, Sheila, what is it that you do? Tell us a little bit more about how you do energy healing and your approach.
Thank you. My approach is all about, the unique approach actually focuses on healing from the inside out.
Mm-hmm.
So what would that mean? As a master energetic intuitive, I do energy healing. So along with that comes, I use the power of my intuition to channel information that brings through information for clients. And what it does is identifies blocks and clears those blocks, allowing you as the client to be in a place where you now have clarity, focus, and forward action.
Okay. So give me an example of someone who would come to you and how the approach works.
Wow, that's a beautiful question, David. I have the ability to be able to work with troublesome thoughts where we have so many negative thoughts. I can go in when somebody's feeling really overly emotional. So I can work with what they're sensing, what they're picking up emotionally, and also physically. So if somebody's coming to me, it would be somebody who's struggling with their knees are always hurting, but they've been to the doctors and they haven't found out anything. Like there just doesn't seem to be anything wrong, but they feel the knees. So they'll come to me and they'll say, can you help me? And let me explain it this way that, David, when it comes to our energy, what we think, if they're troublesome thoughts, they cause us to feel troublesome feelings, and then our body responds to that. Then our body senses there's trouble, and all of a sudden we'll be tense. We'll have pains in the knee if we're experiencing a transition in life where it's hard to move. Maybe the hips will show up, the shoulders. So as an energy healer, I can work with all three. I actually work with the 5 bodies, which I call the energy body, the spirit body, the mental, emotional, and physical bodies. And it's all about bringing it into alignment, because once we can change our perspective as far as what we're thinking and how life is so awful and we're struggling, then we no longer have to feel that. And then the body goes, okay, I'm okay. I don't need to hang on to that. I don't need to hang on to the tension. I don't need to hang on to this trouble. And that's where healing comes in.
Well, Sheila, we're living in that kind of world where just about everybody that I've met in the last 2 weeks needs your services. So, there is that aspect, because everybody's hurting to some degree, whether at some level there is some kind of pain. I keep saying that there are not enough healers in the world for the population. There are 8 billion people on this planet, and at least 80% of them are suffering unnecessarily when there is an option for them to come out of suffering. But then they have to discover this stuff on their own. And then there are healers like you who don't get the exposure that they need. And so when a mutual friend of ours said, I want you to meet Sheila, I'm like, yeah, that would be a yes. Okay. All right. So I want to break this down because I want to get really into the meat of the matter. First of all, energy healer. What are we defining as energy? Because most people utilize that word, even practitioners utilize that word, and they generally don't know what it means. So, what does energy healing mean to you?
That's beautiful, David. You couldn't have expressed that any more perfectly. And I say that because awareness plays a part in this.
Yes.
So much of the work that I do as an energy healer, I'm working with what's beneath the surface. Okay. Mm-hmm. That stuff that we can feel that we quite can't put words to. And we're all experiencing that. And I'll go about explaining it this way. We have, when it comes to energy, you're right. People use it and they say, oh, I have no energy for that anymore. I'm just drained. I just can't even do that. And I'll say to them, are you aware of what you just said? And they go, what? And that's real. Like, to me, there's so many times people will come to me and they'll say, okay, well, and I can feel that's going on in your knees. And they say, how do you feel that? And I says, because it's showing up to me as an energy healer. The energy's doing this, and I can pick that up in a heartbeat. Some people will call it kinesiology. So they'll say, okay, muscle testing, they can sense that. Well, I can pick that up without using the arm. So when I talk to people and I say, well, can you feel the tension in your chest? And they'll say, it's always there. And they'll go, yeah, but it's expressing something. And to someone like me, it speaks volumes of words. So when we talk energy, yes, it's that feeling, that sense that, if I could word it this way, you know how, David, when you love doing what you're doing, you could do it all day and you have energy for everything. Right? Yeah. And you just have to even think about it and you're flying. And then there's things that maybe in a relationship that just drive you crazy. You can't believe the family's doing this again, or your partner's doing this. And by the time you think about it, you feel like you're like there's no energy left. But I have a way of expressing that to people, that when you are in a place where you've got energy to do stuff or you're drained, there's a huge difference. And it's the times that we're drained, the times that we feel like there's just no energy, that's what I work with. We don't have to always know what it is. We just have to be aware that it is. Does that answer your question, David?
Yes, and you brought up a very interesting point. For a lot of people, being de-energized is a normal state of affairs. I'll give you an example of what I'm talking about here. Most people live in a state of clench. I call it clench. It's like a vice. But because that's how they feel, they figure that that's how it is. And the other myth is that, oh, when I get older, I'm going to have aches and pains. They tell themselves that. They program it into themselves. So when the aches and pains show up, it's like, yeah, of course I have aches and pains, right? And this is a very interesting thing to me. And the reason why I say that is because for most people, pain is what they know and understand. Okay? So much so, no amount of pills, no amount of interventions can take it away because it's become a friend to them. Okay? They make jokes about it. Oh, I'm 40 now. I'm supposed to have pain in my back and my knees. I'm like, what? And then I tell a lot of my clients who come to me, I tell them, My grandmother lived till 106 years old. She was walking to town up until 105. So what are we talking about here? And he says, oh, well, it's just personal genetics and stuff like that. No, it was a difference in attitude and the mindset at the time. And so what do you say to people with this kind of imbibed harnessing, self-harnessing of pain and discomfort?
You know, your show is all about education.
Yeah.
And we were talking earlier about people just not being aware. I was one of those. And there's still times where one of the programs I'll use surfaces within us, and we're living it. But it's always, always about awareness for me. So if I am in a place where I go, oh my gosh, it's the end of the month, and as soon as words come out of my mouth, I look at that as far as many times we don't know what's going on inside until it's expressed outwardly through our mouth, in our physical body as a pain, in our mental body as in something we just can't let go of. We keep thinking back to that scenario and we wish we would have did it different, or I don't know why they're treating me like that. So mentally, emotionally, physically, pain can express itself. But we weren't taught that way, David. We weren't educated to believe that, you know what, if all of a sudden, I go to do the dishes and I'm doing the dishes and now I have, now my hip hurts and oh my gosh, I think it's because how I'm standing. Maybe I better go rest. We don't stop and go, what am I thinking right now? Because there's pain in my hip. And I'll explain it this way. I'll be doing the dishes, and if all of a sudden I'm thinking about, oh my gosh, I have that meeting with the boss tomorrow morning, or tomorrow I have to go to, be with my elderly parents, and then I get pain in the body, I don't think about that I relate it to what I'm thinking or what I'm feeling. We naturally go, oh, it's because I'm doing the dishes at the wrong time, or I'm standing wrong. So it has been my full experience, and I still live this today. Anytime any kind of pain surfaces, what am I thinking about? What am I about to experience? What's going on? So for example, David, if I'm excited about being here on the show, and half hour before the show, which I could feel little butterflies in my stomach, I was excited to meet you. Mm-hmm. If I go, oh, it's because I was eating, I shouldn't have ate before, I'm going on. Okay, that's a very different approach than the one that I use that goes, ooh, there's that sensation in there. I think I'm excited. I'm kind of looking forward to it. And if I may share with you, when it comes to pain, if we take that approach and be in that place that the body is communicating with us, or the mind is giving us a signal, or our emotions are giving us a signal, we can approach things very differently. That it's not the end of the world, like I'm 40 and I'm 60 and I'm getting old and my bones are, no, it's, I could talk on this forever, David. I love this topic.
No, we are going to talk on it because a lot of people would know that's why you're here. A lot of people tend to give themselves limiting programs, and they voice it and they name it to claim it, so to speak. So as an example, the usual, I'm getting old, oh, I can't move as much as I could, whatever. It's a perspective shift that you're describing here. Shift your perspective to a more positive one. But what is very interesting to me for most people is that, like you said, awareness is important, but also just being able to feel things is being lost. And I'll tell you why I think this way. I usually do a bit of whenever I do a workshop of any kind or any kind of teaching, I do this little check, and I think we can probably do it on the podcast right now, actually. Everybody who's listening to this podcast, stop what you're doing. We're doing 7-second increments. First increment, How does your head feel? You know, how does I'll wait.
Mm-hmm.
How does your neck and your brain stem feel? Are you good? What does it feel like? Is it tight? Is it loose? Can you like go do some breakdancing? You know, these kinds of things. How does your chest feel? Is it okay? Are you aware of how it feels? These are the kinds of exercises people don't do self checks, Sheila. They don't. They outsource self checks to somebody else, right?
Yes.
And all healing at the end of the day is a kind of self healing in the sense that you either get yourself to somebody who can help or you're aware of it yourself. So I'm going to ask the question, people living in awareness, that little checklist that I just did there, I am 100% sure people will say, yeah, my neck feels kind of tight. Probably I slept wrong, or it might be stress. Yeah, my head feels kind of foggy. I can't think straight. Probably it's because I didn't have my coffee yet, or probably because you had too much coffee. You know, these are the kinds of things that happen because once you do the self check and you realize that there's a destabilization inside, then you have to do something, right? And is it that I guess my question is it that people don't actually want to do the check, or they want to do the check, but what comes after is usually either expensive or they feel like they have no control? What goes on there?
Wow. You talked in the beginning about, people are feeling this. Eventually, people start to identify themselves as that.
Ah, yes, there
So
is that.
this identity becomes, oh yeah, every time I, do this, I can feel it. Oh yeah, I better not do that. And the approach that I absolutely invite people to consider is that anytime any kind of pain or tightness shows up, it may not be so obvious in the moment that it has shown up, but when we can reflect back later and look back in our day, because we can easily do that, we could just feel when in the day today did I react? When in the day did I have pain or aches or whatever in the body? That doesn't cost anything, David. You're right. It doesn't cost anything. But this again is about education. This is about empowering each one of us, which is what your whole show is about.
Mm-hmm.
It's about helping each other to start to recognize that our bodies are brilliant when they're communicating.
Mm-hmm.
They're showing us so many things, and we can learn from that.
Yes. One of the things that I also tell people is that your thoughts have power and they're an energy in and of themselves. And so educating people to tell them a simple example of what I'm talking about. Um, if you don't like your big toe, you don't like the way it looks, you've always hated your big toe, the primer's not going on properly and the nail polish is not going on properly, and you generate hate towards that big toe. Eventually, that big toe will fall off. I'm telling you, your body will give you exactly what you want, right? And this is the thing that people don't understand, the power that they have to either heal or not to heal, right? And then educators like you tell them something, you have the power within you, and then they're like, no, that sounds kind of woo woo to me. No, you really do have the power within you. Okay. And by the way, it's kind of like I don't know if you've ever had this phenomenon, but I'm gonna relate it to the audience. If you ever stub the toe, you notice that when you stub your toe, you always end up stubbing the same toe over and over again, right? Your toe is in pain, but you're gonna keep stubbing that same toe over and over again. There is something to how energy works. Okay. Now, I honestly think that the world would be a better place if people had more of these kinds of discussions, because energy doesn't only affect you, which is the second thing that we're going to move on to, Sheila. If you have the energy of dishealth, is it to a certain extent, contagious to other people who participate in your thought pattern of the self. The reason why I say that is because I know elderly couples who have been married for 50 years, okay? One of them falls sick, you could be sure the other one is falling sick. And sometimes it gets to the concept of something I call a death vortex. If one of them dies, the other one dies as well, right? Because the purpose is missing. And all of that has to do with energy. And sometimes people are really, really fit and they pass away for absolutely no reason. Nobody sees it coming. I want to say that in the Middle Ages, in Shakespearean times, and I say it to people, and people say, okay, that sounds far fetched, but it's a real thing. People used to die from a broken heart. Energy is very real. There are lots of poems written about it. Shakespeare, John Donne, right? All of these people wrote about people dying from what we call the courtly love tradition of unrequited love. My love doesn't want me, so I pass away. That was a real thing. We're a little bit hardier in the 20th century. We have drugs for that, SSRIs, but right? But people used to pass away because of the thought energy that is the programs that they took on. But in this world that we're living in, it's a little bit subtle. So, how do you deal with the new modern ills that are happening, the self talk, the negative self talk? How do you deal with that from a practitioner to a client basis?
I just want you to know that you said a lot of things there.
Yes, I did. I
And
did.
as I was going along, I'm going, I could speak to that. Oh, I can't speak on that. I can speak on that.
No, please speak on everything. I can repeat whatever you need to know.
Let's go to the whole thing about thoughts. Yes, they're continually entering the third eye and out the back of the head, continually. And when it comes to thoughts, it's only those thoughts that we continue to repeat over and over and over that will eventually manifest. Mm-hmm. So if I have a thought going, ooh, my toe, man, that way that my toe is going to fall off today, and I don't give it another thought, then the energy, it's not being fed anymore, mm-hmm. and it's no longer going to manifest. But if I, like you said, David, continually repeat something, oh my gosh, I can't believe this zit on my cheek or my forehead or my whatever is getting worse every day. And I say that for how many times with emotion, it's absolutely going to manifest. Correct. So it has to be expressed with emotion as well. Mm-hmm. You talked about to me, awareness is power. When I have those thoughts, or when people have those thoughts, mm-hmm. if they're aware that they have those thoughts, and something about that is a little unsettling, they now, with the awareness, David, have the power to make a new choice.
Yes.
And that's, I think, what you were alluding to in all of this. We can say stuff and we can say stuff and we can repeat things over and over again. But the moment we're aware we're doing that, that's when we have power, because the awareness, already 50% of the healing's happening, because you can't become unaware of something now you know. Mm-hmm. So referencing what you said, if I'm saying, oh, I'm dying of a broken heart, okay, if I'm dying of a broken heart, the moment I become aware that, wow, I keep referencing my heart, what's that about? That's my approach, is always asking, putting on a little detective hat and always asking, what's going on? What's this broken heart thing for me? Now I'm aware. It allows me to be open to something different.
Yes. I honestly think that people need this kind of education. I'll give you a personal example of mine. Okay. When I first came to this area of the world, I didn't know that Mother Nature had a personality until I came to live here. Okay. I didn't know that sometimes she gets angry and decides to like dump a bunch of snow on you, right? With wind at minus 18. I didn't know that nature had a personality. Now I know that nature has a personality. But then you think of yourself, you have an idea of yourself, which is a false idea. And the false idea I had of myself was that I was useful until I came to live here. And then I had to reevaluate what usefulness meant. So, so as an example, um, I'm vegan. I don't necessarily eat meat, but I don't know how to grow anything. So let me give you this very funny story. I decided to volunteer for a community garden. Okay, there were nice little old ladies that were in the garden, and I decided that I was going to join this community garden and plant stuff. Okay. I hurt for an entire week afterwards. It hurt so bad. Gardening is a full contact sport, okay? And I want to tell you that I'm the kind of guy who wakes up at 4 o'clock in the morning and goes to the gym, okay? But gardening hurt me so badly. I couldn't go to the gym. I couldn't move. I was just in my bed realizing, yeah, you're not really that fit after all, are you, David? Because weeding is something from hell, okay? And I'm looking at these little old ladies who are coming back every day in the garden, and I'm feeling fairly inadequate because I can't do that, right? Okay. And I lay in my bed one day and I'm like, yeah, I'm feeling sorry for myself because, you know, Corey and the rest of the gang are in the garden and I can't help them because I'm laid up in bed wondering why every muscle in my body is hurting so badly. And then it hit me that it's because they're in a calm demeanor and I'm trying too hard in the garden, right? Because they're talking, they're interacting, and so on. And when I got into the vibration of actually interacting with the little old ladies and talking to them, and we're talking and we're just having a community type, whatever, the pain went away.
Wow.
So was the pain real in the first place that had me laid up in bed for a week? Or did I get used to that? Because you couldn't get possibly super fit in a week. But then I realized awareness that the difference between me and them was I was task focused and they were community focused.
Wow.
You see the difference. And when I began to do this, change the perspective, I began to appear less useless than I was before, right? So there is that. So, like these little shifts in consciousness make a big difference to your physical being, which is the next thing I want to talk about because the manifestation of internal disharmony, the pain that makes people come to you, right? Because they live with pain inside. But it's only when, oh, I'm in pain, I'm in real pain, that they go look for a practitioner. What is going on? Why do they wait this long? Once again, I understand it's unawareness, but when it gets to the stage where it manifests itself, where you actually have to do something about it, how do you help these kinds of people?
Well, what you said is beautiful, and I would go two ways with what you shared, David. I had also experienced something where I'm working with a trainer and I was doing, they're called Turkish get-ups, these movements, and my shoulders were so sore when I was done. And to make a long story short, I asked my trainer and she says, well, the pain is there because you haven't had to load your body that way before. So how I was holding my body and putting the weight on the shoulder in the movement, I hadn't experienced that before. So there's always the positive aspect when it comes to shifting the perception. And what you experienced, now you had your experience, you hadn't bent over doing this full contact gardening experience because you're in the gym and maybe you're doing weights and now you can see that. But there's always the element behind that has to shift first. And to me, it's the attachment, the emotion that's involved in it. So when people come to me and they're dealing with some kind of chronic pain that's been around forever, and I guide them through the process and we work on the energy and do the healing work behind it, they all of a sudden can see it differently because they don't have this attachment to what it is and how they've been hanging on for this long, and how, because now they can sit back and go, oh yeah, that happened to my family. Wow, that was so long ago. How do we know there's healing taking place? This is what I'd love for you to hear in your audience. When we feel so strongly about something, there's something there, okay? Something needs to shift because we're holding on. Well, when all of a sudden the emotion is out of it and we're no longer attached, and I'll use air quotes, we're attached to what it is because the shift has taken place, the emotion has stopped, we're not thinking like that, now the body can respond. You approached that gardening so beautifully. Because all of a sudden, with your awareness, and I need to reference that again, you now could see this differently, like what are they doing that I'm not doing? And why can they so? Because then all of a sudden you can start to see it differently and you can approach it differently.
Yeah.
When people come with some kind of pain and I be with, why is the body expressing itself that way? Mm-hmm. Huge. So why would if we're getting, sores in the mouth and we're struggling with stuff, usually our mouth, for example, has to do with words, has to do with holding silence, keeping it in, because when we go to express things through our words and we hold it back, this is the last place inside the mouth where we may experience the hurtful words that we keep locking in, or the self-criticism. So it all expresses itself in the perfect place. You said, how does somebody get to a place where they finally make a choice to do something about it? Mm-hmm. I'm going to explain this way. I don't know if you've ever heard it this way. When we have, I call it unrest. When we're unsettled about something, it happens out here in this, I call it the spiritual realm. Mm-hmm. Okay? We're just aware that, when my spouse does this, that really bugs me. Oh man, but we stop it. And then if it continues to bug us out here, it eventually gets to be psychological and psychic. And then we're thinking about it a little more. And now it's mentally. And now we're thinking about it all the time. Like, why don't they pick up their clothes, for example? Mm-hmm. What happens, David, I want you to hear, is that when it's in these realms here, we can go shopping, or we can go to a movie, or we can talk to our friends, and we can distract ourselves. Mm-hmm. But here's what I want you to hear. When it hits the physical body, now it's got our attention. Yeah. You can't ignore a migraine. You can't ignore the fact that you were gardening and now you can't move for a week. Okay, you can try to get out of bed, but you can't ignore it. So the body has the power to get our attention. And does it ever get our attention? And eventually it wears us down. And then we're in a place where we go, okay, now I'm ready to do something. Some people are so blessed, and I want to explain it this way, that if it's healed in this energy realm, mm-hmm. it will not manifest physically.
In the body, correct.
Even though we might feel that we've got, shoulder problems, there's so many things I've been shifting through lately as far as the shoulders. And what I'm noticing is that my shoulders are finding a new place of rest because I'm getting rid of all that in it. And how does it express itself through our everyday life?
Yeah, this is true. This is actually quite true. How does it express itself in your everyday life? I wanted to ask you, what does it take to be an energy healer? What exactly is the skill set and what does it take?
That's a beautiful question. I would have to say, first of all, is a powerful intuition.
Mm-hmm.
I've been doing this for now over 23 years. And along the way, when I first started to learn, it was called the Ewan method. I have gained many tools in my tool belt since, but I had to move through the blocks that, like growing up, I would sense things in the family, but I would be shut down because I didn't know. Never mind, that's not your business. I heard that a lot. And so as I started to become aware of the gift that I have, it wasn't always received well, because just to let you know, when I started 23 years ago, I was only learning this so I could fix my family. They had problems, David.
Mm-hmm.
No, if they didn't do what they did, it wouldn't get me upset. So I wanted them to change, and I tried to fix them. And I don't know about you in your world, David, but they didn't change and fix.
No, they didn't. They won't. They
No.
won't, because you can't change anyone at the end of the day. Yes.
Oh, but I tried. I'm just here to tell you I tried. But then I got to this place where I had to look inside and go, okay, well, what's bothering me that they're doing that? Why am I reacting that they're doing something? It just blew me away. I had no idea that I had any part in this. It was them. And this is what I want you to hear. We're so focused outwardly. It's their fault. It's because they did that. It's because, and nowhere did I even know that I had it in me. Have you experienced that? When was your transition where you knew that you had more power inwardly?
I think it had to do with getting a particular illness that kills most people, and I had to drag myself out of it. It makes an impact on you, because inside there, in my delirium and so on, I had to find myself very, very quickly and have a very intimate conversation with my inner self. Okay, but I
Wow.
was very, very young at that time, and you get a certain amount of awakening where you are in tune with what's inside, because when you are really, really sick and you're delirious and you're sweating and you have fever and so on, the only thing that is mattering is the conversation you're having inside.
Mm-hmm.
That's the only thing that matters. And this happened to me at a very young age. These are the kinds of learning experience I think that people have to sometimes go through
Yeah.
for them to understand themselves. Yeah, I think that was my learning experience a lot of the times. But even as I grew up, and this is a very interesting story and a more funny stories for you. So, like, I understood these things at a very early age. I also understood that sometimes if you are the healer and the practitioner, you can't see yourself. Okay? And I live vicariously through the mistakes of others. I'll explain what I mean by that. So, where I worked when I was younger, there was a church next door who brought in a laying on of hands preacher. You know the laying on of hands preachers,
Yes.
the Christian version of a Reiki practitioner. So they lay the hands on, and people get to get up and start to walk. I had a particularly sarcastic coworker, and we went to this thing, the church. Not a church guy, but I was curious. I went to the church. So the laying on of hands preacher was coming around and touching people, and they were getting into the spirit. It's one of those churches, but I'm going to be curious, so I'm going. And he got close to my friend. It was like about a couple of pews up, right? And my friend says, "David, he's wearing bifocals. Why doesn't he just heal himself?"
Oh.
Sheila, I wanted to disappear. I wanted to turn invisible. I'm like, you know what? We're gonna slip out of the church. You just said that aloud, and the people in front of you heard it. So we slipped out of the church. But there is an aspect of this thing about healing, whether you're a practitioner, whether you're a Reiki practitioner, whether you're on the conventional side and you did 8 years of medical training or whatever else. There is a saying, physician, heal thyself.
Yes.
Okay? And you have a workshop coming out that is pretty much about that as well. Physician, heal thyself. I don't care if you're a metaphysician or a physician that works in a hospital somewhere. There is an aspect of this that you become the healer and you embody the healer when you learn how to heal yourself. Sheila, speak on this for me, please. Let these people hear the actual truth of the matter.
I very much agree with that. Physician, heal thyself. And I have experienced for years, and I walk my talk. That is so important. And how can I even speak to that? Because I've experienced everything I've shared with you. It is totally about awareness for me. And that's why it becomes more important what's going on inside me than getting caught up anymore about what's going on around me. And you bet, living life experiences, we have relationships that could be, some of the relationships are a little more challenging. That's a fact. And we all have to deal with that. But to me, they're so valuable in that if they do, let me just use these words, push a button inside of me, I know that that's a time for me to experience healing around that because it's now come up for me to experience this. And I go into my reaction in my private space. I go into my reaction because it's not always conducive when we're out with people to go, oh, just a minute, you push all my buttons. I have to do my inner healing now. Are you kidding me? Life happens. And that's why I'll get to the end of the day while I'm laying in bed some days and I'll go, where in my day to day did I actually react? And I focus in on that, not studying what everybody's doing. I used to do that in the beginning, let me tell you. Mm-hmm. But along the way, I've decided, no, this isn't about them anymore. This is about me, because at the end of the day, I want to be at peace. I want to be in a place where I don't, yes, at my age, I'm now turning the same digits this year. And it's a place where I want to enjoy more peace inside. And every time, and I need you to hear this, this is a truth for me. Mm-hmm. Every time I react in some way, I go inside and I go, what is this about? Because the whole thing when it comes to a reaction, it's just showing us that it's not the reaction that's the problem. It's what surfaces from underneath, which what I call unrest. And it comes to either we're at rest or we're at unrest. And that's what I call the spirit body. Either there's peace or we have conflict. And when it comes to the unrest, or you may reference it as conflict, if I have that going on inside, it's about going inside and finding out, what is that for me? And that's why I can be in a place where I can say to people in my course that's coming up here for the intuitive practitioner, is that, yeah, this is about moving through stuff, but it's also about becoming aware of what it is that we're doing and how we can do it more empowered, how we can do it where we're showing up differently, where we can feel confident about the information that's coming through us, or the sensing that we get when we're working with our clients, or how we just know things before they're spoken. You sound like you're very gifted yourself, David.
I have been around for a while. And if you are in the spectrum to help people, that is a byproduct of the practice. You have to have that on board. Mm-hmm. I don't care if you are a medical doctor in a hospital. Intuition will serve your clients a hell of a lot more than 8 years of you reading a medical book. The reason why that is, the medical books could tell you a number of things, but we know the body is extremely tricky. It is. Right? And I've been on the conventional side of healing, and I've been on the alternative side of healing. And I can tell you, I wouldn't, if there was a skill set that you need, the most is the intuitive side, which is why I have you on. here to let people know that, and even the healers, the doctors, and so on, you should actually go to this woman's course, because the increasing of your intuition is going to make you more of a practitioner and a better practitioner than just this flat book type knowledge. The other part of it is learning to accept that you are not perfect is a very important thing in life, I have learned.
Oh, that's a tough one for all of us to get through, David.
Listen, I'm telling you, learning to accept. It is messy. It is messy stuff. I like, you have to understand what your limitations are and accept the things that that you either have to work on. As an example, I can code an entire AI system for you. I went to tech school. I could code an entire AI system. Sheila, you know the three knobs on the washing machine that tells you permanent washing? So I haven't figured that out yet.
No.
You have to be able to understand your limitations. I haven't figured that out yet. I don't know what those mean. Right? You have to be able to understand where your strengths are and where your strengths are not. And that is a hard thing for me. And I have to remind myself every day, right? Because I'm the tech guy, right? I could do things. No, I haven't figured out the washing machine thing. No. You know how many pink clothes I have had to throw over the years? Let's be real here. So I am telling you, guys, that as a practitioner, you guys are going to have to make mistakes, and you're going to have to figure out why you made mistakes in terms of awareness. What is your awareness around that mistake, and so on. And the worst thing is, if there is something going on with you in terms of like mental, or something comes into your awareness, like, I don't know, I have shame around this, or I have guilt around this. Feeling badly that you have shame around it and guilt around it perpetuates the thing and makes it worse than helps you. Yes. It actually makes it worse. So Sheila actually wanted you to speak on that. This idea that there's something wrong with me, and I feel bad that there's something wrong with me, making me feel worse. Like, have you seen that, the compounding of judgment on the fact that something is not perfect with someone?
Oh my gosh, I can speak to so many of that. I'd love to start by saying intuition, what I love the most about intuition is it allows us to be in the moment, to work specifically with what we're working with, which is so different from a cookie cutter approach. Mm-hmm. That, oh my gosh, all leaders need to deal with this. Well, to me, I go, no, intuitively, when I'm working with a group, and especially if it has to do with leaders, I'm able to pick out in the room who needs to work with this specifically, who needs to work with this, and work from there. So intuition, when you're talking, David, it's about, if I'm dealing with you, I'm working with you and your situation and your uniqueness in it all. It's not, everybody is like David. So when you said we're all different, I mean, you couldn't have expressed that any differently. When it comes to the way that the doctors work and the way that the healers in holistic work, mm-hmm. I've come to appreciate, I was like you along the way where I poo-pooed all that conventional medicine. And I got to a place where I had to recognize, you know what? I wouldn't go to a doctor. I mean, I wouldn't go to a healer to stitch up my sliced arm, because that's what a doctor is. And mm-hmm. I've told many clients, you go see your doctor, and when you know what they're showing you, that speaks volumes to me, because the body is reacting in that way. So how do we work with that reaction? Well, they call it, for example, let's say they call it shingles. Okay, great. Now we know we're working with the nervous system. And there's just so many beautiful things that a doctor can share for us. You talked about how we judge ourselves, like, oh my gosh. Here's one of the beautiful things that I've experienced in my healing work myself, is that it's about not judging anymore. If I get angry, I no longer judge my anger. I can accept it. So when we get to that place where we accept the fact that We made another dumb decision. Oh, well. That's different from, oh, I made another wrong decision. Man, my parents always told me I was making wrong decisions. Now there's something in there that needs healing. But when we can accept ourselves and we have the awareness, oh, brother, I made another dumb decision around the block. I used to say to my angels, okay, angels, we're going around the block on this one again. Okay. When we can accept it and not judge ourselves, I would get angry, and I would be angry for days. The more I dealt with my anger and what was causing me to be angry, the unrest underneath the reaction, I got to a place where I would be angry and I was done being angry. Why? Because I no longer judged it. I didn't care to analyze it, where it was coming from. I was done. My husband said when we were in Cuba on one of our trips, he said, well, you don't have to get mad about it. And I said, I'm not holding that in me anymore. Mm-hmm. And it was like I was free to just be angry, get it out, be done. And David, that's what children can do if they're left to do it, is express their emotion, feel safe that they can express, and then they're going to be done. They're not going to carry that everywhere. We weren't taught that.
Yes. That is another aspect.
Yeah, we can go up.
I just want to briefly touch on that, because some of the stuff that we are talking about can be headed off at the pass if parents teach their kids perspective shifting and the ability to be resilient in their thought patterns with non-judgment, non-competition, non-bias in there. And a lot of the world's problems would actually be solved. And, it would be a big load off the whole medical system, because some of these thought patterns that we grew up with, and I sometimes do a review, what I call a review of my programs and so on, just a little bit of an audit. What do I believe in? Actually, I remember having a discussion at a workshop I attended, when I told people, I have this process that I go through on a daily basis. What do you believe in? And then I have another part of my mind come in and argue strenuously against what it is that I believe in. And everybody looked at me like, you have lost your mind. Why would you do that? I'm like, well, I don't have many friends, so right. Right? It's like, why would you do that? And I said to myself, because it is important to do these kinds of audits, because the things, we all have blind spots. I think we do. And sometimes, I'm going to quote Bob Marley here, your best friend could be your worst enemy and not tell you what the blind spot is. You need people around you to tell you, oh, by the way, that would be a blind spot you have there. Done with love, but you need to be able to have these kinds of people around you. A lot of people don't have that. So the self-audit process is very important, just for the energy system and so on. And, if you don't have that, you can buy yourself a teddy bear and, externalize this construct, and that might actually help you. I don't know how you feel about self-auditing, but I think that a lot of things can be avoided if you do a little bit of a self-audit internally, to make sure that what you are believing, what you are saying to yourself, those programs are actually in your best interest as opposed to not.
I would just like to add to what you've shared, because that's definitely beautifully expressed. To me, people, when I'm working with them, they'll say, I just wish I could heal all that past stuff. I just wish, be done. And I say, personally, I feel that when I'm ready to heal one part of my past, the divine will bring it forward in front of me, will set up situations in my life experiences that help me to recognize, oh my gosh, I experienced that. For example, people going through, they're on their fourth relationship, or they're on their second marriage, third marriage, and they think it's the person in front of them that's causing them, grief. And I'll say, okay, have you experienced that in your other ones? Oh, yeah. I mean, mom or dad used to always do it. And I'm not picking on parents. Just allow me to express it this way. They used to always do it like that. And I'm going, okay, then is it really this person here causing the problem? So I guide them to go back and say, okay, here's where we're going to start with this. Once we take care of this from way back then, when we're ready to heal it, the divine or the higher powers will put it in front of our face to heal. Will we or won't we? It's up to us. It's totally up to us. And some people have to experience it over and over again. But there's no judgment there, because I know I was one of them.
Yes, agreed. Okay, Sheila, tell us about your workshop.
It's called the Intuitive Practitioner, Taking Your Practice and Skills to the Next Level. Mm-hmm. It's a 4-week in-person advanced training happening here in Regina, and it starts on Sunday morning, April 12th. Mm-hmm. It's 2.5 hours every week. I'm excited about it. It's open for practitioners who currently are in a practice for at least 6 months now. They work with intuition and or energetics, and it's all about taking their practice and skills to the next level, as far as having to do maybe with money and visibility. Maybe they're struggling with what they're charging and they don't have enough clients. It has to do with the intuition itself to be a little more clear. Those times when we're learning something and we second guess ourselves, or we doubt what's going on, or we can't believe the information's coming through. How is my client even going to know that that's what it is? How do I present this? And so it's open to help people to kind of move through that, to be in a more centered, powerful place as far as how they approach their business, how they approach their skills, how they work with that. And this is something that I love working with. I love working with practitioners, because to see them in a place where all of a sudden they can show up differently, it's wonderful.
Excellent. Guys, if you are listening to this podcast and you're an intuitive practitioner, you need to get in touch with Sheila Unique. Her whole system and her whole being is unique. But I'm going to give you an email right now, which is sunique@sasktel.net. It's right there on the screen for you. And her website is The Unique Approach. That should be very easy to remember, because there's no other name like that. Mm-hmm. The Unique Approach. So if you've forgotten the name, think, what is different about her website? It's unique. TheUniqueApproach.com. Guys, check that out. And Sheila, any last words you want to tell the audience? First of all, I would like you to tell us what kind of people you're really, really looking for, and what kind of clients you're looking for yourself.
I am passionate about working with people who are aware. And when I say aware, that they recognize they're a little more than just a physical body, that somehow inside them it intrigues them that, there's more than, just putting up with their pain. And I use the word awareness, but those people that just are open to something greater than themselves. The kind of practitioners that I enjoy working with would be anybody who's working with Reiki, or could even be massage therapists. If you're using intuition, even when it comes to craniosacral or those healing modalities, there's so many modalities. I don't want to limit it, but I do want to recognize that, again, if you're working with intuition and you want to advance that skill and you want to advance your practice, I'd be more than happy to guide you along the way.
Well, she's opening it to modalities. Guys, if you are on the conventional side, if you are a nurse practitioner, if you are a nurse as well, this applies to you. It does. It's not all about the evidence-based science. Some things are known. If you guys have children, you know what I'm talking about. You need to utilize intuition if you're a mother, because some things you just have to know. And there's not a book on the planet that can teach you how to be a good mother. You just have to feel your way and learn the intuitive sense. And this is not any different when you're dealing with healing. All right, last words, Sheila, and then we will call it a wrap for today.
I invite each one of you to consider that you're more than a physical body, and that the communication that comes from the thoughts and the feelings and how the physical body expresses itself. I wish you so much wonderment and joy in your experience exploring that. Put on your detective hat and find out what that is for you. Thank you so much, David, for this opportunity to work with you. People like you make the world a brighter place to be in.
Thank you, Sheila. That was very nice of you. Guys, I'm going to see you in the next podcast. But yeah, please check out Sheila's workshop. Take care, guys.
In Saskatchewan's heart, a light does shine. Such a place truly divine. Spiritual tools and healing hands await, opening up a brand new gate. Such a haven we have found, where seekers gather on sacred ground, for passion shared and spirits bright, bathed in song, bathing in sound and pure insight. Holistic treatments to soothe the soul, making every broken spirit whole. Events and gatherings fill the air, a safe space built with loving care. Such a haven we have found, where seekers gather on sacred ground, for passion shared and spirits bright, bathed in song, bathing in sound and pure insight. From crystal grids to gentle sound, true connection here is always found. For every seeker on the way, we welcome you to come and stay. To gentle sound. shop of wonders shining bright, guiding seekers toward the inner light. Gemstones gleam with ancient hidden power. Oracle readings mark the destined hour. Metaphysical supplies for every need, planting seeds of magic, watch them feed. For healing hand, charging up your space, they offer wisdom with a gentle grace. Gemstones gleam with ancient hidden power. Oracle readings mark the destined hour. Metaphysical supplies for every need, planting seeds of magic, watch them feed. Oracle readings mark the destined hour.